Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Ibrox press room. I'm here ahead of Rangers versus PSV in the first leg of the Champions League playoff. The teams have just been announced. Ibrox is all kitted out in the UEFA Champions League branding, which is great to see. Even though they've not quite made the competition yet, so need to hold fort on that one. But a huge game, you can sense that atmosphere outside the stadium and travelling to the game. The number of press that are here from all over the world, even in the press conference yesterday, of people asking questions from TV stations in Brazil and Mexico. Just such a huge interest in this game. Two really well-known sides in European football, promises to be a bit of a classic. So I'll take you through the team, starting with the Rangers. John McLaughlin in goals, a back four of James Tavernier, Connor Goldson, James Sands and Borna Barisic, John Lundstrom and Stephen Davis in midfield, which Stephen Davis starting is a bit of a surprise, to be honest. I didn't think that would be the case. He's not started in Europe under Van Bronckhorst since, I believe, the home win against Sparta Prague, which was actually Van Bronckhorst's first game. Tom Lawrence and Malik Tillman and Ryan Kent will play behind Antonio Cholak. It's not clear who will play where. I guess I prefer to have Tillman as central and close to the goal and close to Cholak as possible. Lawrence has played in a number of different positions in a short Ibrox career. Today he was deep off the left in the second half against USG. We saw him tuck in from the right against Livingston, so I guess there's flexibility there. And Antonio Cholak up top. The visitors go with a 4-3-3, and I should say it's not really clear what Rangers will do there. I'd imagine it'll be a 4-2-3-1, but definitely there's flexibility in there, as we know, with Van Bronckhorst. They've gone for Benitez and goal, Teze, Ramalho, Obispo, I think that is, and Max at left back, Gutierrez, Veerman and Singari. Singari, I think, will be the deepest midfielder there. Gakpo, Luke de Jong and Sai Barry. So in terms of players that miss out for PSV, Xavi Simons is on the bench, Van Kinkel's on the bench, Bakayoko is their left-footed right winger on the bench as well. Key threats there, of course, Joey Veerman, who Rangers fans will know all about because of the links for so long to him in last season. Luke de Jong, obviously a very seasoned player. I think it'll be interesting if Rangers really do go for the jugular, if they press PSV really high, if PSV simply try and go over that and play into Luke de Jong. I think he could win that physical battle against James Sands. We've had some brilliant coverage from Craig Vickers on the website today about how PSV play, and one of the things they try and do is just press a lot by the touchline, quite happy falling back a little bit and having control of games in that way. So I think one of the things Craig highlighted is maybe they'll try and use either fullback as pressing triggers, so that's maybe something to look out for as well. But certainly that lineup with Lawrence and Tillman and Kent in behind Cholak, I think that's a team and it's a game plan that's going out to win tonight, and maybe win hopefully by a margin that means when Rangers travel over to the Netherlands next week, they have somewhat of an advantage. Right, we'll get through some of your comments just now. Do let us know what you think of that team. Ryan Stewart says Ben Davies not on the bench. Is he injured? Don't know that yet. Ryan will see Claire on that after the game, but I'd imagine, and we spoke about this, I can't remember one of the briefings, we do so many, but one of the briefings recently, Davies has only started one game this season, and it wasn't even a full 90 minutes against St Johnstone at the weekend, and he didn't have to do all that much defending. I think it would have been a big ask to throw him in for this game, particularly when you consider that James Sands played both of the previous games in the tie against Union, and in my opinion did pretty well at home, although he had a couple of straight passes. I think when you're playing so high on your wrong side, so to speak, he did himself justice in that position. So not surprised to see him in there, but as I say, it'll be interesting to see how he stacks up in that physical battle up against Luke de Jong. Aldo gets in touch to say nervous and excited in equal measure. I think that is probably shared by everyone. Aldo, certainly there's just a little bit of a different atmosphere coming into the ground tonight of anticipation that Champions League music will be back, even though it's not the actual competition yet. But Rangers have had a £5 million or euros for getting to this stage of the competition. So it's certainly taken seriously at UEFA's end. But yeah, I think that nervousness and excitement will be shared by everyone coming into the stadium. Tonight, Marcus says, why is Ben not starting? Sands is going to cost us some point with a red card. Yeah, I mean, last week I think Sands, maybe John McLaughlin would have been the one responsible for that red card if it hadn't been overturned. But as I say, I think that the fact that Davies just hadn't played that much football, to throw him in to a game of this magnitude, of this pace, would probably not be the right decision, and that's ultimately what the decision the manager has taken. Andrew says even Joshua Davies in is a surprise. Yeah, it is a surprise. Normally, when Van Bronckhorst is selected as midfield in these games, he's went for John Lundstrom with one of Ryan Jack or Glenn Kamara. I suspected it would be Ryan Jack just because that's the midfield pairing that he seemed to favour on the way to getting to Seville last season. Davies, his inclusion, I think, is certainly an indication that Rangers expect to pin PSV in at the start. I'd say that because he's not been favoured much in these end-to-end games in Europe before. So trying to read between the lines maybe it is an indication of the type of game Van Bronckhorst expects it to be, but I don't think anyone will be unhappy to see Stephen Davies in that starting 11. Such a classy midfielder still. So much experience at this stage will really help Rangers build play under pressure, and you know what you're going to get from him. So I don't think there'll be many complaints around Ibrox tonight. But it is a bit of a curveball, as Colin says. It's hard to predict Van Bronckhorst starting 11. I think that's a really good thing because PSV, when they're making their game plan, when they're coming to Ibrox, they won't know exactly how Van Bronckhorst's team's going to attack. They won't know exactly the personnel, and I think that can offer Rangers a big advantage in these European competitions, as opposed to the opposition maybe knowing exactly what your shape's going to be, exactly how you're going to play, and having a lot of time to prepare for that and prepare your players for that, because it's such fine margins in these games. Just get through some more of our comments at the moment. Jason says Sands surely isn't our first choice centre back. We'd rather have Katic in the team. At least he offers a threat from set pieces. I would rather have Sands in there, to be honest, Jason. I think that Katic's limitations on the ball is ultimately why he's not really got an Ibrox future. And James Sands his reputation seems to fluctuate up and down at the moment at points after pre-season. I think he received a lot of credit for his performances. I think he's done okay without. I actually think he's done pretty well, to be honest. And I know some people don't like him in that left centre back position. When you consider, for me, that playing in a back two, playing high up the pitch, defending in a manner that he's probably not as used to, when you factor in that, when considering his performances, I think he's done well. But equally, as I've said at the kind of the top of this, in a physical battle with Luke de Jong, I think that offers a little bit of a worry because Sands isn't quite as dominant as a Goldson in those situations. So probably need more games of him at centre-back to judge is he going to be there long-term. I don't think he'll be first choice. I think Ben Davies will be first choice, but as we've said at the top of the show in response to that, Jason's comment there about is he first choice, I just don't think Ben Davies has played quite enough football to come into a game of this magnitude, a game of this speed, and I think that's probably why Sands starts. Jamie gets in touch to say, make Xavi wish he came to Rangers with our atmosphere. Yeah, there's a couple of players obviously in that PSV squad, Joey Veerman and Xavi Simmons, who's linked a lot with a move to Rangers in the summer transfer window. I think it was actually as far back as January that he was linked. Rangers have obviously signed player, a young attacking midfielder of their own in Malak Tillman, who started very impressively, and I think he'll have a big say tonight if Rangers are to take a positive result over to the Netherlands next week. Very attacking lineup, Taylor says. Seems like Van Bronckhorst thinks this will be a goal fest of a tie. I think if you look at what Rangers have done so far in European competition at Ibrox, they're unbeaten at home under Van Bronckhorst. Only Dortmund have escaped without defeat. And even if you look back at that game, Rangers had a perfectly legitimate goal chopped off by VAR. You remember when Morelos and Kent robbed the ball off, I think, Emery Chan, and Kent ended up sliding the ball into an empty net and VAR overturned it. Rangers have beaten everyone that's come so far, so I think you've got to be confident and you've got to go with an attacking lineup and try and take a lead over to the Netherlands, because it's going to be difficult over there, and Rangers don't have as good an away record under Van Bronckhorst. They don't quite have that same maybe dependability as Gerrard's Rangers did when you're sitting in a shape and you know that you can get away without conceding. So I think they've got to play to their strengths, and their strength has been harnessing the power of Ibrox and the atmosphere and overwhelming teams, not only in the first half but in the second half as well, as was the case last week. Lots of options to bring on from the bench as well, which I'll read out in a moment, but I've just put down to my right side. Paul says, very attack-minded team. Surprised not to see a Jack or Kamara in the middle. As am I, Paul. I think in particular Ryan Jack, but also Glenn Kamara, his functionality in these games has been such a focal point of Van Bronckhorst's flexibility and his ability to change things in games and European competition. But whereas Kamara played towards the latter stages against stronger teams as a makeshift number 10, Alec Tillman needs to play there for me tonight. He gives you so much more going forward. He's a player. He's a player whose quality should be playing in games like this. I certainly think going forward, he's going to be a player who plays a lot of Champions League games. And if you look at how he started his Rangers career, it's been very impressive. He's taken to it very quickly. So not surprised to see him starting there. As I say, it will just remain to be seen if it's him or Lawrence in behind the striker. If it's both of them, what he would presume though is it's Kent off the left. I'll just read off the substitute bench for anyone that hasn't seen it. It's McGregor and McCrory, obviously the two goalkeepers, Yilmaz Jack, Matondo, Kamara, Morelos, Wright, Sakala, Arfield, King and Devine. So lots of attacking options there. Rabbi Matondo got 2 assists at the weekend, and I thought he did really well. Alfredo Morelos, everyone knows his pedigree in European competition for Rangers. That aside, you've got Jack and Kamara to maybe shore things up. Scott Arfield, again, has been a real goal threat from the bench when he's maybe not playing a full 90, but he can just hover in and around the area. Even last week, he didn't score in the European game, but it was his shot, being in the right position, arriving at the edge of the box, that allowed the ball to eventually be diverted into the path of Antonio Cholak, who's up top and is 3 from 3. And suddenly his Rangers career is got off to a very good start. So lots of options from the bench to change it, and I think good reason to be confident because of recent games at Ibrox in European competition. We'll just get through a couple more comments before I head up to the gantry and get myself ready for the game. Jimmy says a couple of players on 2 bookings. Joshua got to be careful, could miss the away leg. That's true. I think Tom Lawrence has 2. I know James Sands has 2, but correct me if I'm wrong. That could well be the case. But again, I think the focus tonight will be, much has been made of, will the Ibrox factor remain the same because this is a first leg, it's not a second leg. And obviously the Red Star game has been used as an example. But when the whistle goes tonight, I'm sure that no one will be thinking of the fact that there's a game to come next week. This will just be a game in isolation. The Rangers want to win, that their supporters will, I'm sure, create an atmosphere just like they have the previous X how many European games to try and help the team achieve that. And next week will come next week. Hopefully then you've got the likes of Ben Davies a bit more up to speed if Sands does get a yellow card, and also Alfredo Morelos can maybe play a little bit more of a part. Right, I think we'll leave it there, folks. I'm going to be live after the game, taking some more questions, looking back at all the key points. We'll be live tomorrow morning. Remember, you can subscribe for just £2 for 2 months over on the rangersreview.co.uk. We'll have all your analysis tomorrow, all the stats, as well as a colour piece from the game. Do please like and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching, and we'll speak to you after the game. You can keep up with us on Twitter throughout, but as I say, hopefully it's an enjoyable 90 minutes at Ibrox, and we'll speak to you at full time.